to all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is the Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Shawn Whittington. I'm a seminarian in the United States Old Catholic Church, and I'm coming to you live from my haunted house, my very haunted house, where I live. Been quiet today, but I have a feeling that, before the show is over, uh, with my two guests tonight, which I'm so excited that they're here, things could get active. I just got a hunch. Um, Thank you also very much for tuning in. I don't have a show without you guys. So let's get right to it. Let's check the prayer urn. Annette R. from Illinois. Your thoughts on guardian angels and how can I become closer to mine? That is a phenomenal question, Annette. Uh, Okay, for what it's worth, I'll go on the record. I believe guardian angels exist. I believe I've seen mine a couple of times. I believe my guardian angel saved my life a couple of times. Everyone has a guardian angel. They're assigned to you, they're assigned to protect you. My bishop will say you got to ask for their help. I'm on the fence about that, but I'm going to go with it. If you need their help for something, ask for their help. Pray to your guardian angel a lot. A lot of people pray, but forget to pray and thank their guardian angel. So do that. You didn't ask for this, but I'm going to offer up a quick prayer for everybody's guardian angel and thank everybody's guardian angel, okay? Okay, here's a fan favorite. Name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here. Ever this day be at my side, to light and guard, to rule and guide, amen. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone. Psalms 91, 11, and 12. Okay, let's check the Paranormal Ministry mailbag. I've been checking so many messages this week, I think I emptied the bag. Oh, there's one. Bill S. from Illinois. Another Illinois. How often does that happen? Do you practice religious provocation or any kind of conjuring? Bill, I don't judge anybody that does, but I don't. I do not believe paranormal clergy should be doing religious provocation. If you're at a location and there is a malevolent entity present, they're already provoked that you're there. Why poke the bear? Uh, try to handle things, in my humble opinion, a different way other than religious provocation. Conjuring, I am guilty of having done my fair share of conjuring. Even, an EVP session is a form of conjuring. And I've attended seances and I've used a Ouija board before many, many years ago. Had a bad experience with one, but I don't do that any longer. I don't judge anybody that still does. And it's kind of funny that uh, this question would come up because one of my guests tonight is one of my favorite people on the planet. She's a very gifted psychic medium. I love working with psychics. If I think that I need to do any type of conjuring at a location, I will bring a gifted psychic along and have them handle it. Someone who's far more psychically gifted than I am. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. If you go there to visit, remember my wife and I don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So I know times are tough, brothers and sisters, but if you happen to notice the donate button and you're able to do so, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. In addition to being an ordained exorcist, I'm also a certified spiritual advisor. So If you're having issues of a spiritual nature, not necessarily attached to the paranormal, and you'd like to speak with me about that, there's a place on the website where you can make an appointment to speak with me. But don't leave the website without navigating over to the page called the WSE course/book. On that page, you'll find the Ghost Store. Lots of cool things to purchase if you go for that sort of stuff. And anything you purchase on there, part of the proceeds go to many different types of things that I donate to. But scroll down a little bit further and you'll see my new haunted autobiography, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry. And I quote, scariest book I ever published. That was Annette Munich, owner of Stellium Books, my publisher. But don't let that scare you off of purchasing a copy. If you haven't done your good deed for the day yet, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my book goes to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, Nevada, and the ASPCA. So it's a no-brainer. You get to help some of the neediest children on the planet and the animals too. How cool is that? You can purchase the book a little less expensive at Amazon, but you can get it autographed from me enclosed in a house blessing kit if you purchase it off of the website. Okay, scroll a little further down, you'll see the Worldwide Society of Exorcists, which I am a founding member. I offer a 12-week online college-level course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, through the WSE, and this is the course for all you true warriors for Christ out there that feel a calling and a longing to want to have more knowledge when it comes to drawing your line in the sand, making a stand, circling the wagons, putting up a good fight against, God forbid, true evil, if that ever comes calling for you. This is the course for you. You can enroll in the course at the website. If you want more information about the course before making that type of commitment, go to the Worldwide Society of Exorcists Facebook page and read about the course, or just call me, reach out to me. I'm approachable, I'm easy to get a hold of, and we can talk about it. Most importantly, please keep all of my former, current, and future students in your prayers. And remember, all my students that graduate the course get a stunning diploma, certificate of completion, suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed gifts that you can only get from yours truly. Okay, guys, the moment of truth, the reason why you all tuned in. I'm really, well, one of them I see every month, and I have seen every month for years now on this show. And the other gentleman I've met for the first time, such a cool guy, and I'm so excited to have him here. But first, I'm going to bring on the happy medium herself, Cape Cod's only live on-air psychic radio personality. Please welcome to the show the one and only Susan AHEARN.
Hello. This is such a treat. What a treat. It's not even the last Monday, and I get to see you twice this month.
I know. You'll be back in 2 weeks for Happy Medium Monday. And what I love about tonight, I'm going to get a couple of questions in there, but I'm just going to have you and your friend chat up a storm. And if I don't get a word in edgewise, I don't care, because I'm excited to have him here. I'm excited to have you both on here together. So if you're ready to bring your friend on, I'm going to have you introduce him.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So Frank Durant, amazing person, friend, director of the movie The Lady of the Dunes documentary. Super awesome guy. Yeah, Frank Durant.
So in this order, I'm an amazing person, then an amazing friend, then an amazing director. I'll take that, Susan. That's fine. That's
personal.
fine.
It was personal first, which is deeper than
I
just
understand.
some guy who made an awesome movie.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. And that, like every film, it's a collaboration. So you could be a great director, but if you have terrible people, you can make a terrible production. So I had an amazing crew, amazing talent in front of the camera. And my job was easy. I was just had to shut up and just let the film happen.
How can I see this film? I don't live out where you guys are at. I'm so bummed about that. I know you had a big screening and it was a huge success. Mm-hmm. How can people see the film, or has it not been out in distribution yet?
Susan has a copy. I think it went live through DVD last month, like the last day of the year. It's on oldies.com right now, which is through Alpha Video. And I believe we should have an online YouTube channel soon. There's a couple of local authors creating a website, ladyofthedunes.com, and that's going to have the film available there. And then I think my cinematographer, Tyler Ballinger, should be having it free available on YouTube, hopefully any day now. I don't know what the plans are, but it's hopefully the idea to make this was not to make money, but just to really get out there so more and more people could watch it and just know the backstory of this almost 50 murder mystery that was just recently solved.
Very, very cool. You know, this night is special for me, and I'll tell you why. One, because I think, anytime I see somebody that's very talented at what they do and extremely passionate about what they do, like you are, Frank, I really get into that. And I'm also a big time movie buff and big time horror movie buff. And tonight's going to be easy for me because once I started promoting that the two of you were coming on the show, I've actually had friends and fans and followers of you, especially Frank, send me in questions. So I have a few fan questions for you, but I'm just going to I'm not one of those hosts that it's all about me. If I don't get another word in edgewise, brother, I'm telling you, it's okay with me. I want you guys to have a nice chat about everything. But what I want to know, Frank, is how you got to be into, it's hard to get into the field that you're in and then be as successful as you are, along with being very talented and all that. How did all this come? Your passion, how did this start?
Good question. I tell everybody, if you want to be in this industry, get rich parents or parents who run a studio or it's all who you know. I didn't have any of that. I had great parents, grew up in a blue collar community. And I actually put the trivia on my own IMDb page that I worked in a video store because that's become historic. That's like a time period piece of what's a video store. So throughout high school and college, I was watching movies every day while getting my BA in film studies. So I had the passion. I'm a lover of cinema and the idea of creating a story. And that took me a few years right out of college to get a crew together to make my first film, my first horror movie. Got bit by the bug and never looked back.
Is that the main, your main focus? What drives you is the horror genre, or do you have a mixture of a few stuff?
Unfortunately, no. I tell everybody you should do a horror film because it's a huge audience. So even if you do a crappy, low budget, no budget horror film, people are going to want to watch it. And hence my first project was Kill a Campout. I thought we got a great title. People are going to watch it. And it's pretty much don't go in the woods. Don't say you'll be right back. And, it's on YouTube now to watch for free. If it's for a budget of $5, it's just weekend warriors. Go out there with your friends, grab a camera, just shoot something, make it look real, make it look good. We had the sun as our lighting crew. So we just went off and just, hey, let's tell a story. Let's get some stuff on paper and make a fun little film that people can be entertained for 60 minutes. It's tough because where your talents meet the needs of the world, that's where you should be. And you got to ask yourself, okay, every artist wants to be commissioned. They want to say, hey, draw my painting, write my novel, make a film. And we all want to work. And there's a lot of great artists out there who just wait for the phone to ring. So I am blessed that I got that opportunity. People have reached out to me saying, hey, we want you to help tell this story about this 50-year-old murder mystery. Try to piss off a few people in the process. And they knew my background was also one of my jobs. I worked in infomercials. So we used to say we had Apple quality at banana prices. So we knew how to get very good production for very, very low budget. And they asked me, well, what could you do, this or that? They knew of my previous documentaries, and they found out that I was able to produce good content for very little money. Then they were sold. They hired me on the spot. So I feel not just being an artist, but you got to have kind of the idea of not just the gift for gab. You have to know how to communicate, but you also got to treat this as a business because you either want to save them money or make them money. And that's the big thing too. If you have a great horror film idea like Night of the Living Dead, they want to exploit you and put you in every drive-through cinema throughout the 1960s. And, we all want our films to be sold and to be seen. And that's the rub. A lot of us don't make money in this. We spend our own money. We do Kickstarters. We try to get people to believe in us. And, I admire anybody who wants to create a work of art because you're not guaranteed to win the award, become famous, and make a lot of money.
Oh my gosh, that was so well said, brother. It really was.
Well, Susan had me practice. I had the script, and the dummy cards. So.
It has nothing to do with the show tonight. But you sound like I could close my eyes and you sound like a young Jack Kennedy. Has anybody ever told you that?
It's funny. I got fired from a film because they hired me because they say, "Hey, you have a cool New York accent." I was like, "No," but they threw some money at me, so I went there and I taught the star of the film to talk like this. And the director was like, "Wait, cut! Why are you talking like that?" He goes, "Well, that's the speech coach told me to talk that way." So we were all fired. It was a terrible film. But yeah, I took. I didn't know I had an accent until I moved out to California, and everybody in that state said, "Wow, you speak very fast, very nasal, very funny." And then I took a course on how to speak without a dialect, but also speaking with dialect. And one of the things was the Kennedy impression, that if you drop your jaw when you pronounce words, you get more of a Kennedy, more of a real old school Boston accent. So it was $50 a class, and I got about $200 worth of speech lessons. So
okay, Frank, but was it a terrible movie because you were fired?
I walked off technically. Independent film, and of course you wear 20 hats, and I go, you know what? I don't like the people, I don't like the film. And I don't want to mention, if you Google me, you'll find out what film that was, but that motivated me to say, you know what? I'm just gonna make my own movies now, because I love working in good collaborations, but when you're doing all the work and the producers are not doing anything, you got to question that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because you said you got fired and it was a terrible movie.
I got fired from that position, but then eventually I was doing wardrobe, catering, first, second AD, rewrote the script, finding locations, finding cast members. And at the end of the day, I don't think I got paid. So it's one of those labor of loves where, like I said, I got bit by the bug. But sometimes you need to question, what kind of films am I making? Because I've seen people just still keep trying to make either that horror film or whatever. And eventually it's hard to give it up because it's your passion. But if you keep making bad movies one after another, it's tough. And then you fall into the whole Ed Wood category of filmmakers, because they're passionate, they love what they do, but they haven't evolved. They haven't really gotten better in time. And I love seeing filmmakers who have a lot of money and make an okay film, then they do something with very little money and it turns out to be crap. It shows you that the value is in the dollar and not the people in front and behind the camera. So I love independent films that, my God, they have nothing to work with and they're producing great cinema. Absolutely. So whether it's just that independent, you find that local actor who knows what they're doing, or a cameraman and a crew that knows how to film something very, very beautiful, very powerful. And I love that, because it doesn't matter how my friend used to say, it's not the arrow, it's the Indian. Meaning you can have $1 million camera, but if you have an idiot behind that camera, it's going to look like crap. So I admire any independent filmmaker that can produce a shot or a scene or bring out just anything that just a little bit of gold does. It can still be a bad movie, but as long as there's those moments of, that was great, that was pure Hitchcock, pure Cassavetes. And like I said, it's just, we're a part of that flock. You gotta represent and protect your own.
It's funny you brought up the video store. I remember the day that they closed down all the Blockbusters here in Vegas. And I was that guy right up the street at the one closest to me, going in there because they were selling everything that hadn't been opened yet for like 50 cents, $1. Yeah. And I loaded up, man. I took a wheelbarrow in there and loaded up on videos.
Well, I worked for an independent video store. So Blockbuster put the little guy out of business. And then finally Netflix put Blockbuster out. So I was happy to see it happen, even though it was bittersweet, because I'm like, we used to, Friday night, the families used to come out and, okay, we got a video for the kids, we got a video for the parents. They'd ask your opinion. So what's good this week? It's almost like they're buying a bottle of wine and wanting to know what's the best novel. That was like the corner drugstore in USA, America, small town America, because people would come together and get that Friday night, Saturday night movie. And it was a place to have a conversation and talk about movies. And I was literally that fast talking, if you could imagine, young wannabe Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. I had a baby kid in a video store who would just talk with his hands. So it was just a perfect atmosphere for me, because people would call me up with stupid random film trivia and questions. Like, Frank, what was that movie about the guy with the boat that sank Titanic? All right, thanks. And so it'd be all these little questions. Yeah. And sure enough, people say, well, stump Frank. Who won't know what this movie is. And I was like, yep, I know that movie. And it was just, by default, you fall into a profession. It stays with you for 20, 30 years.
Well, this is going to lead into how you met our other guest tonight. And what I want to say is,
Susan probably has her own version of the story, so I'll have her go first.
I'm going to before we get into this, is going to lead right into that. I was stalking you the past couple of weeks for what you got very little. I mean, other than knowing what you do, you got very little about you on your Facebook profile. So I was doing some digging, and I see, and this leads right into Susan. I see that you were at Ohio State Reformatory. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's a ghost hunter. And that didn't dawn on me until I started looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably just traveling around with the wife, and you stop there, and it's a Shawshank Redemption place and all that.
Mhm.
But then I remember, and I love that movie, but I remember seeing interviews with some of the cast and crew members, being a paranormal guy, talking about how all the paranormal activity they experienced during filming the movie, and they just filmed in a very small section of that prison. But that is a notoriously famous, worldwide famous haunted location. So now I've already, I've addressed the elephant in the room. There we go, hauntings, ghosts, psychics. You've got this long time unsolved murder mystery in your guys' neck of the woods. You do this incredible documentary about it. How do you even think to reach out to a psychic, and then it be Susan? And then how did that and Susan, jump in if you want to, how did that relationship develop, and how did that whole thing go?
Well, I worked with 5 amazing psychic mediums on this project. And my background, I have a master's in communications with a concentration of symbolism and semiotics. So I piss off everybody at the movies. So I always see a color symbolism or a number pop out going, ooh, the number 26 or the number 7, that's symbolic. And a lot of things popped out with Susan, where the name Richard kept coming up, which was very odd. Like, it's funny, when I went, that was a trip to Ohio, I had my Uncle Richard with me. And of course, I was there to see the Shawshank Redemption, which was, I pride myself, that movie, The Big Lebowski, and Clerks, I was a fan of back in the 90s. Before, now they're considered great movies. But I was telling people, oh, you got to watch this movie. And now it's considered one of the greatest movies ever, because you can relate with the theme, the story of forgiveness, redemption, hope, love. And funny is, we were going to miss it, but for some reason, the sun didn't go down that day till 9:50 p.m. It was the oddest thing. I'm like, oh, great, we're going to miss it by, I want to get a shot of the outside gate. And the sun didn't go down until almost 10 p.m. that day in the summer. Wow. It was very odd. So it was symbolic that I got that photo. But I was with my Uncle Richard. Also, the first day Susan and I officially met, my Uncle Richard wanted to tag along with his dog. And Susan will give you a little backstory about that. But that name kept coming up when we interviewed Susan, and then during the documentary, during the production, then also after, which I don't want to give the Rosebud moment away, but the name Richard came back again. But Susan was late to the ball. We wanted to film her in April, and we filmed this in April 2021. And then I totally forgot about Susan. And then she contacts me like 5 months later saying, hey, I got your email. What's going on? So I was like, okay, you lost my email. What's going on here? I think it was like she was constantly nonstop busy with clients from then till the summer. So we didn't meet till I think that's September. I think it was 2 weeks after Labor Day. And take the story away from me anytime you want, Susan, just to get your side of the truth.
All right. So I actually, people reach out to me often, and I wasn't sure if he was creepy or not. Now I know he's creepy, but I wasn't sure then.
Yeah.
In a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Good creepy. So I didn't reach out to him. I kind of sat with it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. This is another weirdo, blah, blah, blah. And so I sat with it, and I didn't do anything about it. And then either I opened it up again or it came back again. I really don't know why. 5 months later, he's already more than halfway through. We're at the tail end of his production, and I reached out to him. But at that point, I was like, Spirit, is it okay? I don't want to put myself in danger. Is it okay to reach out to this person? And Spirit was like, yep, now's the time. And I went, okay. So I just, and we got in contact, and he said, well, I'm kind of at the end, but do you think you could help me? And people have always asked, why don't you do something about the Lady of the Dunes? And I mean, I could easily say for 10 years, people are like, Lady of the Dunes this, Lady of the Dunes that, and we're so close. And I'm like, yeah, no, not yet. No, not yet. So when he reached out, I went, oh, is it time now? And that's when Spirit said, my guide said, yep, it's now. Now is the time. And he's the one. And I went, okay.
Frank, it's funny that you say that, how, Susan's telling the story that she thought you were a weirdo. I did some some obscure late night on the weekend radio show interview. I was the guest out of Canada many years ago. And
Right.
Susan watched the show or listened to the broadcast and reached out to me afterwards. And I thought she was a whack job. So it
See?
took me a little bit of time to
Okay.
actually embrace her and bring her in the fold. But this is a weird comparison. But I think of you, Frank, in almost like like I wish more investigators reached out to truly gifted psychics like Susan
Hmm.
to solve these types of cases. And then you hear like, I thought we had another one on our hands here with this murderer that they couldn't find out of Idaho who kills 4 kids. I'm thinking, oh, this is the building of another one. So those types of things probably now, and tell me if I'm wrong, probably hit close to home for both of you when you
Hmm.
hear of other unsolved murder mysteries out there, or you hear of a murder takes place and they don't have a suspect. But where did the medium, where did you wanting to feel the need to reach out for a medium come from? Because I wish more cops did that.
Well, initially when I came on, part of the goal was, well, maybe we'll make this in kind of a short. Let's go for like a 20-minute. We'll talk about the investigation and the original chief of police, James Meads, who ran this from 74 all the way till he retired, till the end of the 20th, I would say the 90s or mid to early 90s. And as the more and more investigation, more and more people that we interviewed, you realize, oh, we have a feature film here. This is easily going to be 90 minutes. And what James Meads did back in the 80s, Jimmy was an old school Portuguese American, lived and died Cape Cod, worked as a petty officer all the way up to the chief of police. So he was like the local good boy who, was to this day, he's considered one of the greatest police chiefs they've ever had. And he was old school Catholic, Knights of Columbus. He even reached out to a famous psychic because he was looking for any opportunity to save this,
Right.
solve this case. So for him to do it, I thought, you know what, if it's good enough for Jimmy Meads, let me try that. So that was the initial idea. And then I realized, okay, what are we doing here? We're just going to have talking heads talking as opposed to how are we going to visually showcase this documentary? So I thought, okay, we're doing the investigations. We're looking at the written word. We're looking at primary and secondary sources. Now with science, you're looking at DNA, forensic DNA. So we got the science part of it. Then I'm thinking there's a spiritual side. Maybe we can mix all three together, that all three come together, and boom, you got the solution. Kind of a reference from Jaws. You look at Chief Brody. He uses both Hooper and Quint. Okay, we got the old school. I know this one of these things can eat a rocking chair, throw it in its mouth, and then you look at science. Hooper, I'll take the CO2 and throw it in his mouth. 2 and 2 come together, boom, solution. And then visually, I thought, okay, we're making a film, but let's incorporate a podcast. Let's incorporate radio, voiceover. Let's incorporate, hey, we'll interview everybody on a stage like this is theater. So I thought, how many different ways of a medium can we use to communicate this story? And same thing, using visuals as opposed to just talking heads 24/7. And the end result is visually, we made an amazing visual story, but every one of my psychics, every one of my private investigators and scientists all brought something to the table. And unfortunately, law enforcement wants to solve cases, period. If they can't solve their cases, they don't want outside help. And in a way, I understand that. You don't need 1,000 independent people ruining the investigation or making it worse for law enforcement. However, I want to compare psychics to podcasts. I've talked to so many people in law enforcement. They refuse to do any research or references on podcasts. And because I'll defend podcasts, but at the same time, if you watch 10 podcasts on Lady of the Dunes, 9 of them don't get it right. Just where they think the body was located. It goes from, oh, she was found by a 12-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old. They don't know. They can't get the story. It keeps changing from 1974 all the way to 2021. But then there'll be this one podcast that has a golden nugget, and they'll come out something that's very factual. They'll find something that even law enforcement didn't have. So unfortunately, just like the psychic medium world, they do bring something to the table, but then you got a lot of bad podcasters out there. And Susie, you know what I'm talking about. You see people out there, they just want to read your palm. Oh, you're going to see a man. Oh, a big man. Oh, yes, a beautiful man in your future. That'll be $100, please. But then you'll meet with people. And I tested Susan a lot. Susan was pissed off halfway because I put her in a situation because I wanted to see the bull crap. And it didn't come. Susan brought things to the table that unless she broke into the case file, she would not have known that. So there were things where there was just as much factual information coming from the mediums that was coming from the case file and my private investigators.
Susan, I want you to introduce the victim to us and tell us how she's communicated with you.
Sure. So at the time, we didn't know who she was. We had no idea what her name was. And, I didn't even want to. It was so funny because I never just, as it was being, I mean, it was local. So you would think that I would have heard, or you just heard the name, Lady of the Dunes, and you knew it was some girl who died on the dunes. And that's all I really knew. So it was nice. I like to go into cases where I don't know anything. So that way, then I won't second guess myself, because the minute I second guess myself, then I contaminate my own investigation for the most part. So I just really didn't want to know. And I kept saying, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. So I started connecting with her the minute that I agreed to see Frank and to go. I didn't know really whom I was talking to, but the minute we went for a dune tour, and we had to get in the Jeeps, and we went out to the beach. The minute that happened, when I was at the beach and meeting them in person for the first time, was this flood of information. And it just comes in bits and pieces. Can't control it. I can't tell you how much I'm going to receive, or if I'm going to receive anything. And I'll be honest, if I don't get anything, I'm not going to make up anything. I'm not getting anything, and that's okay.
You can't. I know you have the ability to turn it on and turn it off. Many people that are gifted don't. But like when you work a case like this with Frank, and you're doing a documentary like this, if it starts coming to you stuff, you know you're not going to turn it off, because you need whatever information spirit world's going to give you. I couldn't do what you do. I couldn't relive watching the murders. Do you see much of that too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would really be disturbing to me. I couldn't do that. That's now, Frank, Susan, she lives in the world of spirit. I live in a haunted house. Everybody thinks it's because of what I do why my house is haunted. I think it's more my wife, who's far more psychically gifted than I am. I believe it's her who's like the giant mosquito lamp on the back porch, and the spirits are like the mosquitoes just coming to the lamp. Even my publisher, who's not really into the paranormal, she's not psychic, but she had a lot of paranormal activity happen when she was editing my book. Certainly some of these types of things had to happen to you while doing this documentary.
Well, I'll admit, like anybody who in my line of work, when you go into production, it's the last thing you think about when you go to sleep, and it's the first thing on your mind when you wake up. And I'm in my 40s now, so I usually can't go throughout the night without having to go to the bathroom. So I'll admit that. And in the midst of this production, I remember telling myself when I was, doing my zombie walk to the bathroom, just go to the bathroom, keep your eyes closed, and get back into bed, because I don't want to look out the window and see anything looking back at me, or at 3:00 in the morning, of course, during the witching hour, saying, say my name, or, ease my pain. I was kind of like, just go to the bathroom. This is the perfect time to have a ghost or a spirit. So whether it was real or not, it definitely kind of possessed me, because any filmmaker or storyteller is constantly thinking about the production value, the script, the shoot breakdown, the editing process. So it was so much on my mind that I kept thinking, yep, she's definitely on my mind. I've been to her grave several times. I paid my respect, but also it became very real, because we were talking to a lot of primary sources, people that were actually involved, including a woman who was 91 years old at the time, Mildred Chaplin, who was a dune dweller, who was living in one of the dune shacks since 1956. So she's just turned 92 and a half. She's still with us. And she had a lot of information. She was there the next day. She was there with the police. She saw the crime scene. So it becomes real, where you're not just making up a horror film. You literally are living a horror film.
Susan, what I know it's hard for me to ask a question that you guys won't want to give something away because I want people to watch this documentary and be
Hmm.
really surprised. But there had to be. I mean, this guy was like the Jack the Ripper of your neck of the woods, there wasn't he? And there was more than one murder,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly. So what about these other victims? Any still unknown or other victims reaching out to you saying, "Yeah, I'm a victim and I'm buried over here," or
We kind of talked about this or brought this up is that for a small place like Cape Cod, we've got a couple of serial killers,
Hmm.
that all kind of conjugate down in the lower Cape. And it was kind of weird. Oops, sorry. That, I mean, there's still information coming out on this case. So we don't have the end result of exactly what happened. I mean, we know she died. We don't really know if it was the husband. They're assuming, I mean, it's still out. The jury is still out on there is a lot more that we
Hmm.
don't know. I do feel like there's more pieces coming. I also feel like there's pieces they're not going to share with us. I don't know why. Once again, there's a lot of secrecy around this whole case that we found continuously as we were going through. I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Like, just what's with all the secrets? So, there was one part that no one will know that I'll share with everybody. So the day that we met and we get into the Jeeps and we're taking the Jeep tour out to the location of the site where they found her body in the sand. So I was in the back seat with his uncle Richard, the driver, and then Frank is in the front seat. And um, the closer we got to the location, I was starting to get like my body was just quivering. Um, the closer we got, and Richard looked over, he goes, "Are you cold?" And I said, "No," because it was cool day, but I
Hmm.
wasn't cold. I'm like, "No, we're just getting closer." And he says, "How can you tell?" And I said, "I can't stop shaking."
wow.
And so when we finally, I looked at him, I said, "We're getting close." So I had no idea where we were. I'm just going on energetics. And then we made a corner, drove up a little, and then we stopped. And I was like, "Oh yeah, we're here." And my whole body was just trembling. So it takes a while. It takes a while for you to energetically kind of breathe through it and sift what you're seeing. It was nice to have other psychics in this investigation because I could bounce stuff off and say, "I saw more than one person. What did you see?" And they're like, "Yeah, I got blah blah blah." And so it was like, awesome. That's so helpful. Um,
And another reason for that is I wanted them to complement each other as opposed to I had five opinions all in different areas. Without you guys interacting, you guys were coming up with the same initials,
mhm.
everything. So it's like, all right, it's either a conspiracy theory against me where they're all behind the scenes talking behind my back, or okay, they're all coming out and saying the same thing. The letter M. Everybody kept saying M M M. But also two things I want you to mention, Susan. Uh, my uncle Richard wasn't supposed to be that day. He just showed up randomly, and you couldn't get to her body where her body was found without walking in there with Richard.
Mhm.
And you kind of told me later that she said, "I'm so glad Richard is here."
That was crazy,
That was
right?
crazy, especially because we didn't know
Mhm.
until a year later what significance. But mention the flower petal.
So even tonight, so I knew that she
Yeah.
was channeling because before I came here, she said, "Oh, she didn't specifically say what. So what I get is an image. And so I got an image of my pink scarf because I'm like, oh, what am I going to wear? What did I wear last time? I'm just being a girl. What should I wear? I don't want to wear the same thing. And the image of this pink scarf came up and I said, oh, okay, I'll put on the pink scarf. And then I went, oh my God, she did it again. So this color was very significant the whole time for me during the case. Um, it showed up everywhere
Wow.
that she had information for me. And I would be, well, so we get out of the Jeep. I couldn't go into the space without Richard. And so that's when, she was like, oh, it was nice to have Richard there. I really leaned on Richard when I was there. Um, just the energy, just everything about that space was intense.
Mhm.
And I leave the space. I go back to the Jeep because it's a little bit too much, and everybody's still kind of milling around the crime scene area. And I look down, and there's this little tiny bright pink petal, and I took a picture of it, and it was in the path where the Jeep had already driven over. You could see the nice fresh tire tracks, but it was a pretty windy day, and there was no way that this one little pink petal could have gotten there. There just was no
Wow.
way. And so there's this little pink rose petal. And throughout the case, I would just see a little pink rose petal. The minute I would see a pink flower along my path, I'd call Frank and go, "Okay, what are you doing? Where are you? What's happening?" And it was just the strangest thing. He's like, "I'm in the middle of the woods and we're trying to find, blah, blah, blah." And I'd be like, "Okay." And so I would start channeling her. And I was on vacation in California when I called. I'm like, "I don't know what's going on, but and I take a little picture. This is what I found." And I would keep finding them. And so even when we went to the cemetery in Provincetown, and what's the name of the cemetery, Frank?
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's Cemetery. Thank you. She left a trail. She was leaving this little trail for us to look at. And the whole time that was
Little
her,
petals.
these little petals, pink petals.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'd never found so many pink petals. After we were done and after everything was through, the petals stopped. And I would get one petal every now and then, but this was the first time in a while that I've received something pink again from her. And I went, "Oh, okay." So I asked her, I said, "Do you want to be present tonight? And do you have anything to say?" And she was like, "No," she just wanted to in gratitude. I think it felt like there was a lot of gratitude, that she was just thankful. But I
Well,
also set up my little
yeah, your
my
little
little go
there.
balls. So I asked her, I said, "If you really want to be here tonight, you can hit these little go balls and let's see what happens." So
Well,
nothing so
Frank,
far.
earlier in the show, you mentioned Scorsese.
Mm.
Now, and I know Susan's talented. She had a cameo acting appearance in Alternate Ground. I thought she did great.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're talented and you could also act. Might there be a movie done out of this?
People are always talking. The only rumor I did hear that came from a good source was there have been 2 other serial killings in the area, and there has been interest in doing either a mini docuseries or a feature film based on that. And then someone told me, it could be a kind of a 3-for-1 if they decide to tie in all 3 of the murderers that were on Cape Cod. Then it almost kind of like comes into more of a big mini series as opposed to just one subject matter. But I've seen things greenlit and back shelf going on 10 years. All comes down to, does the studio want to back it up, or you have a major actor who wants to play in this? One of the actress Jessica Hopper, who was in one of my favorite films, Phantom of the Paradise, she did the voiceover for the poem narration for this documentary. And her connection to Cape Cod is that she wrote multiple cooking books, cooking on Cape Cod. But it's funny how, she was at the height of her career in 1974 when this murder happened. And I was talking to so many amazing, talented people to do the voiceover. Her agent called me back saying Jessica wants to do it because she wants this case solved. So that right there, it was a huge investment where we ended up getting, the price was right to bring her on board. But a lot of people came and made this a labor of love to say, listen, we're not here to make money. We're here to showcase our talents and to solve this case. And with Susan, even after we had wrapped, Susan kept saying, hey, she keeps showing me a flower that's blooming, like something's going to happen. And I kind of walked away from the film about 6 or 8 months ago going, okay, I'm in pre-production of the movie. I've given it birth. It's out there. Let the world digest it. Susan and 2 other of my psychics kept saying, something's happening. Something's happening soon. I kept saying, yeah. In time, who knows? And sure enough, on Halloween day, we were all contacting each other saying they came up with a match with the DNA.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Mhm.
You've commented. I don't know if you commented on the Changeling poster. You commented on some movie posters behind me here. What do you think about you two getting together and filming? And I don't even know if you're into this kind of thing, Frank. Filming a legitimate Conjuring, and we have this question that came up about Conjuring before the beginning of the show. A legitimate Conjuring type session, whether it be a seance or a Ouija board or anything like that, and filming that.
This is for entertainment, or this is for
Anything that you with your being the talented director, producer, writer that you are, what do you see that being, if that's an even something that's worth to film or doesn't have much value to it? Or
there's an audience for everything. Unfortunately, I see that more as it's not really entertainment, or are we trying to educate or influence the audience? You got to ask yourself too: do all spirits want to be conjured? And I one of my first documentaries was on the old King Philip War in the 1676, and there's a monument of 9 men. It's called 9 Men's Misery. They were massacred by the local natives because they were captured and regained their honor. The natives disemboweled them and put them all in a mass grave because their goal was to go out there and kill these savages. So they did a 180 on them. And so we're talking over 300 plus years ago. And now you have kids out there with ghost cameras and ghost box, and here I am. I'm 16. I want to talk to this person who's been dead since 1676. And you got to ask yourself, do you think they want to talk to you? What's your connection? They've been dead for longer than your ancestors have been. And you just got to put that in perspective, saying, okay, you want a connection. I get it. You'll contact the dead. There's something out there bigger than yourself. I get that part of it, but same thing with Susan. She asked the question, what's this guy's deal? What's his game? And my game was to help solve this and to push the envelope. And that's not always the case with some filmmakers. You got some people out there who they want the power and the glory. They don't want just to showcase the talents or try to do some good. And there's a lot of people out there that want to exploit. So you got to ask yourself, is this for journalists? Is this for artistic merit? Or is this just to exploit? And that's a big question in this industry.
I know that I happen to know for a fact there's a couple of next generation young dreaming to one day be the next Frank Durant people out there watching the show.
Can you have them call me?
Here you got, if I'm going to go watch Top Gun for one particular reason, and I know there's going to be special effects. I'm going to watch The Matrix because I know there's going to be special effects. I would rather, I like a good low budget horror film where there's not a lot of special effects and they still pull it off.
Yeah.
Talk to the next couple of Frank Durants out there about if they just brought their first camera and they don't know what else to do, but they know they want to make film. What do you recommend? What do you suggest to them?
Do it. Just don't say it. Don't be the guy who's talking for 10 years saying, yeah, one day I'm going to write the book. It's like, do it. Find the time. Even if it's terrible, just keep writing. And if you got a camera, just go out there and be a young John Cassavetes. Let's just grab my friends, go out there and just attempt. I'm not saying you have to showcase this as your final work. Go out there and take 1,000 takes and 1,000 tries and try to produce something and find out what your craft is. That's a good question. I interviewed a lot of amazing, talented actors, directors, and they all kind of told me about you have to protect your craft. And you got to Google that and find out what that means, because a lot of people don't know what's that mean. It's like, well, what's your craft? And make sure that if that's your style, if that's your image, don't falter for somebody else. Don't spend 20 years trying to act like that other actor. And then one day you wake up, you don't have a voice, you don't have a face, and you're done. You've been putting on a different uniform every day to go to work, and that's not who you are, Shawn, or you are Susan. So I tell people, you got to protect that craft. There's only one Danny Glover. If you know a certain type of person, you can't just say we need a black actor. Granted, he's African American, but he's Danny Glover. He has a sound, he has an image, he has a style, he has a craft. And there's certain films where you need a Danny Glover. So go out there and be your own person. And you could be a terrible filmmaker, but you know what? Maybe we need a campy horror filmmaker, because if that gives you love and passion and it gives you a place, then do it. But at the same time, you're not going to win the Academy Award, make $1 million, and have that power and glory. But if you're able to produce something and be happy with that, but also make sure that you're not hurting people in the process, which, going back to this documentary, we were pissing off a lot of people, and for good reasons. But our goal wasn't to hurt them or to exploit or to piss them off to hurt them. Our goal was to say, listen, we're trying to help. We don't want to burn bridges. But there are some people, some artists that love burning bridges in order to make that piece of art. And I've tried strongly for the last 20 years not to do that.
I'm going to go out on a limb. We got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to go out on a limb, and just in case I forget, I love and respect you both, and thank you both for being here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go out on a limb and say we all three like horror movies. I don't know how much Susan is into zombies. I know you and I, Frank, talked a little bit about zombies. I was just looking through my Encyclopedia of Zombie Movies book, and then a friend of mine remembered coming over and visiting me here, and he saw an old, original The Fog. And we got into this discussion if The Fog, the original Fog, was a zombie movie, because when these ghosts of the lepers that drowned in the ship came back 100 years later to take revenge on the founding fathers of Antonio Bay, then they were physical, and they were actually, killing people with the hooks and the swords and stuff. Original Fog, ghost story or zombie movie?
Ghost.
I like ghosts too, because in the beginning of that movie, man, I'm telling you, it's all ghosts and it's creepy and it's just, but yeah, they're very physical at the end. Where they're all got the, you've seen the movie. What do you think, Susan?
What's the word I'm looking for? Why zombies, Shawn? What's the fascination about it?
Because it just creeps me out that, and you just, to me, all the weird stuff that people talk about in the world today, that stuff's been around ever since I was a little kid. I've been seeing weird stuff, and these weird, like that movie. What's the one where based on the Serpent and the Rainbow? There's a lot of stuff out there that we don't know about. That these pandemics coming up and these cures that we can't have, and who's to say that one day we might be in a World War Z type of situation? Who's to say? I just find that stuff, even though it hasn't happened on that level, I find it, because we don't know. And in my line of work, I've seen so many crazy things that I can't explain, that I hope I never experience again, that I would have never in my wildest dreams thought I would experience. I never say never. And I just find that zombies creepy. And now you're the prey. You get caught by a zombie, you're going to get eaten. So I guess that's why.
In short.
Susan, what's your favorite zombies? Not zombie, but horror genre.
I don't know. I like them all except for zombies. I can't get into the zombie thing.
Can't get into the zombie thing. But you're just like Sharon was 20 years ago, and then she started watching Night of the not Night.
Well, I'll watch something.
She doesn't like Romero films. I take her to a Romero film, like they had the big anniversary of Land of the Dead out here, director's cut, with all the interviews behind the scenes with the actor and George Romero and stuff. And she just wasn't into it. She didn't enjoy it. But she likes Walking Dead, loves it.
But they move so slow, so it's kind of stupid. You're like, if you can't run, I get it. But if you can run, you're not going to bump into one. I'm just keep going. Just keep going.
I want to see.
Then just stop.
I want to see, Frank. I have just this hunch about you, man, that you could probably make a killer low budget zombie film that would be good. I just have this hunch.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! In college, I was in my first movie was a zombie movie, and I was the girl who got and was trying to run, and I had to pretend. I tripped naturally. Trying to make yourself trip was horrible. I was like, huh. I was just so bad. But yeah, they were trying to chase me, and they finally got me in the basement. Dead.
Don't go in the basement.
See, why run into the basement? We always go, why are you going in there? It's a locked room. Like, what the heck?
Don't go in the woods. Don't go in the attic. Don't go in the basement.
And clearly, don't go to the dunes.
There you go.
What's next this year, Frank? What can we look forward to that you're excited about for you this year?
Well, we should be releasing 2 films that we produced last year. I did a horror trilogy based on Rip Van Winkle, where Part 2 and Part 3 should be releasing this year. But right now, I have 2 just small passion projects that I'm working on, far from the horror genre. They're just 2 little mini. One's a short, the other one's a documentary. Other than that, I'm at the point where I'm just either waiting for something to cross my path or for the phone to ring. And the phone rings a lot. I get a lot of bad suggestions, but I still accept the call. So I kind of haven't learned from that mistake yet.
Susan, your team, Mass Hauntings, got a couple of awards for being a great little paranormal series. You've been in a couple of movies too. What's up for you other than being with me the last Monday of every month here on Paranormal Ministry? What do you
What's
got
going on? Well,
coming up this year?
I've been doing some stuff, and actually Frank and I just we kind of got contacted by someone in the horror con, true crime horror con, that may like to have us come be a guest speaker. So I'm
That
kind
would
of
be so
working.
cool.
I like teaching, and I like bringing you know, life experience and knowledge to the masses. And so if we can get on the road with that, I would like to do that. So I'm doing a little bit of that with Daniel, trying to set that up, some paracons and stuff like that. So that's I think I'm taking it to the road. So we're going to see.
Well, guys, if I was there, I'd give you both a big hug and a kiss. Thank you both so much for spending an hour with me on your busy Monday nights. It's late there in where you guys are at. So God bless you both. You know you're both on the prayer list. And did you have fun when you guys come back together?
Oh, totally. And definitely
Absolutely.
make it to see The Lady of the Dunes. Buy it, share
Absolutely.
it. It's a great popcorn movie night. And yeah, thank you. And thank you, Frank, too. He's wonderful. So I
Yeah, Frank,
appreciate
thank
it.
you so much for being here,
Very
brother.
blessed.
Thank you, guys.
What's the word I'm looking for? You jazzed up my podcast tonight.
All
right, brothers, sister. You guys have a great remainder to your Monday evening, and I'll be in touch.
All right.
Stay well,
Bye,
Shawn.
guys.
Thank you again.
All right, guys. God bless you. Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Cool. All right, guys. I know the show's not long enough. I have so many more things on my mind I want to talk to the two of them about. I'll have them back. I will be here this Friday the 13th. That's right, guys. It's Friday the 13th. This Friday. And when I think of Friday the 13th, this name just jumped right out at me, and I asked her, and she said, yeah, of course I'll be there on Friday the 13th. So I will be here this Friday the 13th with an all-new, brand-new live show. Host of Ask Madam from the Skeleton Key Network, Madam, will be here this Friday the 13th. Okay. What else do I want to tell you guys? Thank each and every one of you for being here, because I don't have a show without you guys. CommunityPayItForward.us. CommunityPayItForward.us. Go there. Find somebody that needs some help. If you can help them, help them. My church, the USOCC, USOCC.org. Go there if you're interested in wanting to know a little bit about my church. If you're interested in night prayer, which is every weeknight, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, or if you're interested in Bible study, Wednesday afternoons and Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Pacific, go to bishopjameslong.com. bishopjameslong.com. You will find the links to both of those, night prayer and Bible study, if you need a little more God in your life and who can use a little more God in their life. I want to thank Adrian and Zach Clayton, my co-producers. Couldn't do the show without them. I want to thank Things Network. I want to thank Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment. I want to thank Skeleton Key Network. I want to thank PACT, Podcasting for All Coming Together channel, for all these networks simulcasting my podcast. Thank you. God bless you all for doing that. And now it is bad joke time. I'm going to pull a bad joke that one of you sent in out of this haunted carnival barker hat. And it's my poor attempt to put a smile on everybody's face before I say goodnight. What kind of pictures do hermit crabs take? Shelfies. Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. I love you all. God bless and peace.